Hello and welcome to the Unofficial Commerce Crew podcast. I am your host, Steve Holsinger. Today with me is Kyle Montgomery, and we have a special guest, Shane Smythe. Shane, would you mind introducing yourself to our listeners?
Yeah, sounds good. Like Steve said, my name is Shane Smythe. I'm the CTO at Saltbox. Been in the Salesforce ecosystem for, about 14 or so years now. Played a lot of different roles, but I'm a tech enthusiast at heart, so I love all things about Salesforce. I've been working across the different clouds, Marketing Cloud, but right now I spend most of my time on Commerce Cloud and order management, and kind of the integrations with those two clouds.
Awesome. Shane, thanks for joining us. How'd you get your start in the Salesforce ecosystem? 14 years, that's a long time. What started that journey?
Yeah, it was actually an internship at a company called Magnet 360. So they had a really good program back in the day where they brought in people who had tech experience but didn't know Salesforce, and they had a whole program that they took you through over, I think it was like 3 or 4 months. And my first cloud or project after the first couple of months was around the time that Salesforce was acquiring ExactTarget and turned it into Marketing Cloud. And they didn't know what to do with it. They're like, we've got this non-Salesforce Salesforce product that we need someone to figure out. Would you be the guy to go figure it out? So I spent my time beating my head against the ExactTarget wall with no documentation, and that's how I started my Salesforce career.
What were you doing before that? Were you a developer before that, working in any particular technology or anything like that?
Yeah, it's been building websites since I was like 14. Had a little web development company, did that for a few years. Right before the internship, I was working as a systems engineer at a company called, blanking on the name, Cerner Corporation in Kansas City, and I was a database engineer there. So kind of on the physical side, and then flipped back over to the software side and got into Salesforce.
Nice. You're CTO of Saltbox Management and have helped develop training for new Commerce Cloud developers. Tell us what that program looks like and how you got started doing that.
How do you get these delivery centers off the ground?
Yeah, it's a good question. All right, well, maybe before I talk about that, I've got to back up for a moment, and because there's some context here. So you're back to ExactTarget, back to my early career. There were a handful of individuals who spent a lot of their time building blogs and YouTube videos and like training for the world. And like, I literally could not have done my job back then without those people being willing to just open source some of their content and share with the world, even though they were at competitors. And that resonated with me really early on in my career, and I kind of kept that as I was going. So, fast forward to a handful of years ago, I started doing YouTube more on the Marketing Cloud side first, and then fast forward again to us starting Saltbox. I wanted to really make that a part of our DNA and what we did here at Saltbox, because my methodology is that you raise the waters, all the boats raise. It's not just yourself that you're going to deal with. So yeah, I mean, fast forward to that. So I started pivoting my YouTube channel to Commerce Cloud. Knew a friend down here in the Merida area. His name's Rafa Hernandez. He's one of the MVPs in the Salesforce ecosystem too. But in 2018, he actually started a program down at the university here, and it was all about teaching Salesforce. They actually have Salesforce classes at this university, which is a really cool thing. And so he approached me and kind of said, "Hey, you're starting Saltbox. Like, would you be interested in teaching for free to this university about Commerce Cloud?" And I was like, "Well, why not?" Sounds like a good thing to do. And so I taught the first Commerce Cloud class at this university. Had some really good individuals in that class. That turned into an internship program that we've been doing for 4 years now with the university. We've taken through, I think, about 25 or 30 individuals from the university. And so that's one way that we give back free to the university. We teach all these students, and then we get to have the opportunity to bring on a couple of those individuals as interns. But yeah, it's just one of the programs that I feel gives back to this local community, and then kind of the YouTube channel is, of course, a broader community to the globe around B2B commerce.
I have
Were
to
you
say,
teaching? Good, Steve.
I have to say that like what you've just said resonates very highly with me, because the Slack community that exists today exists because of the closed off nature that Demandware had with its documentation and ecosystem around the same time that ExactTarget was coming up and getting acquired too. I was also frustrated similarly that like it was hard to onboard. Nobody seemed to be publishing anything around it. We did have the benefit of having what they called Exchange, which was like a forum, but it was very closed off and you had to be associated with a vendor or a customer that was associated with Demandware. So the founding of the community that we currently participate in came about in a very similar fashion as to your, drive and donation of your time to this community. So I find that we are very kindred spirits right now.
Yeah, definitely. It breeds some good outcomes, and it's frustrating at the time, but it breeds some good outcomes, I think.
For sure.
And remind our listeners where they can find your YouTube channel. Like, what is it called if they want to, because you've done years of YouTube content, especially on core and commerce on core, but also order management. And I'm sure it would be
Yeah, it's called Salesforce Mojo. I've also got a blog that I manage called Salesforce Mojo, which has written content. I find some content's really good in video form and show and tell, and some content's just like, I just need to reference that. Like, just let me copy paste that. So I've kind of managed both of those to facilitate those use cases.
And that all resonates with me too. Just anything that's open source content that we can consume on our time or, also via an educator kind of framework is of course going to be valuable. I'm curious, Shane, were you in person when you were teaching this university course or was a lot of that remote? Like, did you have to relocate to teach it there in Mexico?
Yeah, it was not quite that extreme, although that would have been really cool. I know it was the virtual class that I would come down here once a quarter and we would do kind of a graduation ceremony in person. And the program was already established when I started because of what Rafa's done. So the first time I taught the commerce class, there was probably like 150 or 200 people in this graduation ceremony, like existing students, new students, faculty. It was a really cool experience, but most of it was virtual. And then I'd come down here and kind of do that final graduation with them each semester in person.
It's impressive. I'm curious, have you ever found yourself referring back to your own blog posts or videos?
I try not to say that, but now it's going to go on record. But yes, 100%. I'll go. I know I knew how to do this at one point. Let me go back to former Shane and look at my writings or looking at the videos. So yeah, absolutely.
This might be helpful on my part, but I feel like we've all done that.
Oh, good. I'm glad I'm not the only person.
Done that too. Before I found myself in Salesforce land, I was doing some Oracle work. It was a blog. It had like 10 readers ever. And I think all 10 of them were me. Like, it was more like notes to myself that I'll put this out on a blog just in case it clicks. It never did. But like, hey, 4 weeks ago, how did I solve this Oracle Solo Suite problem? Oh, that's how I solved it. So
yeah, I've told people in the past, I'm like, half the reason I do the videos in the blog is so I don't forget. So I can go and look back at it.
On the blog content, I noticed you have some stuff published on Salesforce Ben. Is that syndicated or are there unique articles on that channel?
Yeah, they're unique. So I try to keep the channels that I do individual, so they're unique, and I'm not like kind of sharing across it. So I've got some unique content on Salesforce Ben that they requested me to co-develop with them. The stuff on my channel or my blog, I should say, is really specific to commerce right now and very technical. Like I'd say the Salesforce Ben stuff is kind of high level overview, positioning. My blog stuff is like, hey, I don't know how to build a checkout component with LWR using an extension and an orchestrator. What do I do? And there's no documentation out there from Salesforce on that. And so here's an example.
Created a blog, a YouTube channel. You've taught a Commerce Cloud university, but like maybe it's one of those things or maybe it's something else. What's the coolest thing you've ever done in your Salesforce Commerce Cloud?
Well, I'll say maybe I'll choose 1 and 2. How about that? There's a lot to pick from, but I'd say number 1 is both a professional best, but also I think a commerce best. What we've developed down here in Merida with this program is by far the best thing I've ever done in my career. And it's fulfilling from we give opportunities to these individuals in a smaller town in Merida, but it also helps bolster the Commerce Cloud space with new talent, and it also helps the business as well. So I'd say that's probably 1. And 2 would likely be the involvement I've had around Code It Forward, which is another open source repository that is focused on Commerce Cloud and open sourcing the components there. And it was a really cool experience because it's not very often that you get competitors to work together. We're all in the Salesforce space. We're all delivering projects, and to a certain degree, like we're delivering to some of the same customers. And so there's a little bit of competition in that. But this code of four, there was a common cause that like everyone just needed the basics on how to do commerce the right way. And so a handful, I think it was at the peak, there was like 6 or 7 or maybe more consulting companies that came together and built this open source repository and contributed versions of their code to everyone. And like I said, it's not very common you get the opportunity to do something like that. So I'd say that's a pretty cool thing that I was able to do in the commerce space.
Yeah, I've tried to spearhead things like that on the B2C commerce side for many years. We've been dealing with Site Genesis first, and then SFRA, and now PWA Kit. And I think a lot of SIs and vendors have over the years started their own kind of fork of those things to create their, unique take on that. And almost invariably, those become obsolete within a matter of months. And it seemed to me like the right answer to this problem is just all of us kind of contributing to something, whether it be Salesforce more open sourcing what they have, or a consortium similar to that supporting open source. There is a B2C focused open source initiative. And one of the reasons that's important is because there's no way to get a sandbox to work in right now without being a partner or a customer. And so this initiative, which Peter Schmalfeld is involved with, and I think Kyle is also supporting, really helps people to be able to do that. And actually recently, there's been an announced kind of like headless accelerator that's a little bit more, I would say, Salesforce agnostic. It doesn't take the, conventions that we have in PWA Kit or SFRA very far forward, and thinks more like, what would this look like if this was a React developer focused application rather than like somebody trying to port SFRA to React? So very, again, parallel lives and kindred efforts here.
Sure. Well, it's a difficult thing to get all the organizations together, but when you do, you really create something magical. So it's good.
Speaking of magic, Kyle, you want to ask the next question I think we're both waiting to ask?
Gotten kind of your biography, maybe talked a little bit about your past, Shane. Thank you. I want to talk about the present and then maybe the future. But the present, to me, we're just weeks removed from Dreamforce. I want to ask you what you learned. I want to ask you about, what is exciting on the roadmap, or what, maybe something that wasn't announced. You had a conversation with a product guy and you want to share it here. You want to leak it here. We want to get into that. But first, congratulations. You got the golden hoodie. What an accomplishment, seriously, and well-deserved by everything you just described. Absolutely. What was that like? Just tell us about that day and what that was like.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate the kudos. It was a special moment I'll remember forever. So yeah, I mean, you tell a little bit of the story. I was contacted maybe a month and a half before Dreamforce and by the product team. So this is by Aaron and Kevin. And they're like, hey, we're looking for someone to help us with a demo during the keynote of commerce. And I was like, well, that's cool. I'm happy to do that. That would be a great opportunity. And so we spent the next month defining what the demo script was going to be and building the site. And Kevin, built a fantastic demo site. We walked through it, and Aaron was actually driving the keyboard. I was doing the talk track, and I don't know. Someone's probably going to correct me, but we probably did 6 or 7 sessions and ran to the demo 2 or 3 times in each one of those. So we did a ton of practice. It was legitimate practice. The day before, we did a dry run with the whole team, the whole 9 yards. So at no point in this journey did I think, well, they're just using this as a way to get me on stage to do this, because it felt so real and I was doing a real demo and all that. Anyway, so fast forward to that, nailed the demo. That's all I cared about. Literally halfway off the stage, and they backed me up on the stage to give me the hoodie, which was a complete surprise. I don't know if it showed on my face, but I was not expecting that. So it's cool to get that recognition, and and appreciate all the product team members and connected teams, Amalia and Ali and Aaron and Kevin and everyone who pulled for me to get that and helped me kind of be where I'm at today.
Maybe for those who are not familiar, what does the golden hoodie represent?
Yeah, so there's a couple different variations of the meeting, but one of the big things that they want to do about the Golden Hoodies is recognize people who contribute back to the community. And that can look like a lot of different things. For some, it can be, they're in a location where Salesforce is not highly used and they're like a pioneer, they're a trailblazer and trying to build up the community. Some people, for me, like me, could be like I'm providing content and free training and I'm a community leader and all of that. But really at the heart of it, in my opinion, it is contributions back to the community and growing it.
I think it's also being a brand ambassador. And the brand is Ohana. It is like that family, right? And I think you represent that. If you wear a golden hoodie, you're seen as a pinnacle of that Ohana brand. And I think that definitely fits for you, Shane. And kudos again.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I think in some cases it's been like used to highlight inspirational stories, right, of people joining the community and growing through that process.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what else did you hear at Dreamforce? What's exciting for you on the product roadmap in Commerce Cloud, order management, or anything else? I mean, Agentforce, of course, was the talk of the town. So what got you excited?
Was the talk of the town. Because it was so much the talk of the town, I'm going to talk about something else, one of my favorites. And it was actually what I demoed. So if you go back to that, I think it's a YouTube video now out there. If you go back and watch it, what we demoed was real. Like there was no vaporware to that. Like it was actually product. It was just pre-release. So in essence, what I demoed was B2B commerce and RCA, which is Revenue Cloud Advanced, working together so that on Commerce Cloud, you can allow your customers to configure complex products themselves. So take a generator, say what wattage you want in it, what fuel tank you want, what all the details about it, right? As an example, a business can go and actually use RCA to build those rules and constraints and then show that to their customer. That's a big deal because up until now, you either would have to customize. You'd have to purchase something like logic.io, which got acquired recently by ServiceNow, so it's not really an option anymore, or you waited for a product to do it. So now product is there and they can combine those two. And I'm excited about the next release next year because it's really going to be when it all comes together. Like right now, they've been slowly releasing features between these two clouds to merge them closer together. Next year, what we've been told, safe harbor, right? I don't know exactly what Salesforce will do, but what we've been told is that the two products will get even closer. The way they sell it will be closer. And so you can buy commerce and you get some of the functionality from both of them, which I think is going to be really big for a lot of our customers in the manufacturing space.
I was going to ask, because it's like a really high demand kind of feature that a lot of your customers that you're seeing from your customers is some more, CPQ kind of functionality right within Commerce Cloud or integrated through Revenue Cloud.
Yep. A lot of manufacturers would die for some form of this functionality.
Yeah, I spoke to one company at Connections that were specifically calling out those particular needs and not feeling like the platform was quite ready for them to be able to use that. So that's fantastic. And I think I saw them also at Agentforce Boston. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of use cases for that one. And like you said, even on the B2C side, configurators has always been something that we'd have to plug in a third party probably to solution. So that's a fantastic opportunity going forward. Speaking of B2C versus B2B, you focus primarily on B2B commerce and B2B D2C. But what advice would you give to maybe somebody who's a little more familiar with the B2C side on their journey to learn more about core and B2C commerce?
Yeah, it's a good question. So there's a couple of paths you can go down if you want to get further into B2B side. What I usually recommend is B2B is built on all of the quote unquote core functionality of Salesforce. So if you're familiar with Sales and Service Cloud, you've got a leg up already. And even better if you know Experience Cloud from doing community works or portals of any sort inside of the Salesforce ecosystem. So that's typically where I start the conversation. I say, hey, do you have core experience? If you don't, here's the trailhead path to get some of that configuration capability, lingo, terminology under your belt so you understand the ecosystem a bit more. And if they already do have that, then I usually start pointing them towards some of the getting started videos that I've created because it helps kind of walk you through. Here's the concepts in Commerce Cloud. Here are the objects you need to know. Here are the types of things you need to think about. And then here are the steps to actually do it hands-on. That's what I suggested. If you don't know core, go figure out core and then start diving into the right content that you can get hands on. Because at least for me, the best way I learn is just getting my hands dirty and trying to figure it out. I feel like that's a lot better than trying to read for an extended amount of time.
Agree. When we were developing similar courses in my previous employer, we had a lot of demandware developers, a lot of B2C developers, and we wanted to cross-train people on core. I didn't throw them at an Apex learning course. I threw them at the business objects, understand that instead of, we're doing B2C commerce today, that's just customers and what we call profiles as a different object in demandware. Instead, we have accounts and contacts, and learn what this terminology means. And yes, it's going to be presented to you through the veil of Sales Cloud. I don't need you to learn the Sales Cloud user experience per se, and I don't even want you to learn the programming languages yet. I need you to understand these fundamentals first and these business objects and their relationships, because that's going to serve you no matter which of the Salesforce core clouds that you learn the particulars on in the technology. And it sounds like you took that kind of same approach.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that.
Yeah, I think permission sets and, field level access and accounts and groups and things like that is probably one of the biggest hurdles for people, just to understand getting the data to be available to your program and things like that.
Security model is complicated at the very least. So getting that under your belt is a huge win if you can do that.
Yeah, and arguably probably the source of many performance issues over the long run of using Salesforce.
Yeah, potentially if you do it wrong, and even if you do it right, if you've got a giant account, it can still do that for sure.
Speaking of performance, I know there's been some developments in recent years to try to improve that on the B2B platform, partly with shifting some rendering responsibility from where we host Lightning Web Runtime. And there's been news about it shifting over to the managed runtime architectures for some use cases. Is there any of that you've been familiar with? And is there any announcements recently that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the last couple of years, their whole focus has been LWR. Right? They were on the Aura framework before, and Aura is slow, to put it nicely. All server runtime, no front end runtime. And so they've made some big enhancements over the last couple of years of going from LWR to going to LWR enhanced. So we're now at optimistically sub-second load time on pages. More than likely, if you've done any level of customization, you're dealing with a second or two load, which is benchmark-wise really good when it comes to B2B type of use cases. So they've been investing heavily in that and heavily in being able to customize at scale. There are some roadmap items for making that even better, as you mentioned, Steve. None of it's official as far as I know yet. So I think some of it's in beta right now. But I think for at least a lot of our customers who are in the manufacturing space or akin to manufacturing and enterprise, LWR is sufficient for what they need when it comes to second or two load time. And then if it's not, a lot of our customers will choose to do headless if they want more control over what that looks like and how it renders and how quickly and all of that. So
yeah, we've seen a lot of demand for headless B2B at depth recently, and it's largely driven by that performance concern.
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of customers, the second or two is okay, and some customers it's not. So you go that's kind of a customer decision, right?
Yeah, I think we've entered a point of commerce for B2B where it used to be that we were transforming slow paper fax processes, right, into digital. So any speed was kind of okay as long as it was self-service. Now I think that the line has gotten so blurred, and the expectations of the general cohort of users who have to place orders through these systems has come to be the same level of expectation as a B2C experience.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, this has been said a million times by a lot of different people, but the generation who is dealing with these B2B interactions now grew up using Amazon and B2C interactions. So that's what they want. And they're probably not wrong in wanting that. So I think that's where the industry is going. And I think it's going to take time for us to get to the Amazon type experience in B2B, I think, but I think we're getting closer.
Too, yeah, that is a message we've heard many times, is trying to provide that B2C experience on B2B. And when you're going headless, it should be, even introduce some opportunities for shared frameworks, shared experiences, things like that. And so
Yep.
What?
And at the end of the day, you guys know this from the B2C side. Like there's a right tool and right application of that tool for each use case. Like the B2B framework might not be the right decision depending on what your goals are. Maybe B2C fits it better. Maybe there's a mashup between the two of them. I've seen that as well. So really just comes down to what the customer wants.
So you're not in favor of us just all being distinct hammers and everybody seeing like our kind of nail all the time, you know?
No, that would make life easier, but no, I don't think so.
No. So cross-trained, learn lots of different hammers for all the different nails and screws and things. That's good
Exactly.
advice. What does 2026 look like for you in Saltbox, Shane? Looking ahead, what do you think the next year will hold?
Well, hopefully good things. I mean, so far we're just working on closing the year successfully and teeing us up nicely for the beginning of the following year. I'm down here in Merida right now, and one of the things we're doing is kind of an internship check. So we've done. I think we're about 3 months into an internship right now. So closing that and hopefully converting those into employees next year and continue to grow the company and in our location down here, and hopefully continue to give back to the community through what we contribute in the space. Those are, I think, the high level goals for me at least, and then our organization, of course, is to bring our skill sets to our customers and hopefully provide some really good implementations of B2B commerce and order management.
What do you think e-commerce will look like 5 years from now? Let's say it's 2030. What is your prediction for e-commerce 5 years from now?
Well, first I'll say whatever prediction I make is going to be wrong because
That's true.
like
You're right. You already predicted
world-
something right. Yeah, you're going to be wrong. That's great.
that's true. That's probably the only thing I'm about to say that's right. But we've seen so much change in the last just year and 2 years, and even like the last 3 months, just when it comes to agentic experiences and AI and what that looks like. And some of it's real and some of it's maybe aspirational right now. But I think 5 years from now, like the POCs that a lot of people are running are going to be production products. And it's really going to take effect in 5 years. What that actually looks like, I don't know. But what I do know is that commerce is never going to go away because commerce is essential to everyone's ecosystem and economy. So we have to purchase. It's just what that purchase looks like. That's going to be up for question.
Well said.
A long way of saying, I don't know.
No, that's pretty good.
Well, speaking of hammers, we have kind of automatic hammers now with the advent of vibe coding on core. I know Kyle talked about that in our last episode, but Shane, were you able to sample any of that, or is there anything that you're looking forward to in that context?
Yeah, so I'm in the pilot right now with, what do they call that? It's Vibey?
Vibe Cody? Vibe Cody?
Coding?
Something like
Yeah,
That would
I'm
track
blanking
with
the word.
the
It's,
that. I think
characters.
the bear is Cody, and so the product is Vibe
It's,
Cody or something like that.
I think it's Agentforce Vibes is what they call it right now.
That's right.
So
Dreamforce Vibes.
I've actually been able to play with that a little bit. It does really good in some areas and has some work in other areas. I'd say my favorite vibe code tool right now is vo.dev or vo.app now. Vo is a company inside of Vercel. It's a fantastic tool. Like it's really good framework, mostly React and Node development. But I've even done Salesforce development on it with LWCs and Apex, and it does a pretty good job. I've built probably like 2 dozen, 3 dozen apps, like little POCs and apps with it that I've used for different smaller use cases, and where you should not trust everything AI outputs, like tools like that. There's a lot of utility in. Not put it out into production without checking it yourself and making sure it scales and all that stuff. But there's definitely some productivity gains with tools like VO.
I can see that being particularly helpful in pre-sales, sales engineering roles.
Yeah. 100%.
Awesome.
Well, you're also an admin of Unofficial SFCC, or now known as the Commerce Crew, with Steve and me. It's been your takeaway, and what does it mean to you to be an admin of that group? I think you've been there a solid 2 or 3 years now. What's that been like?
It was one of the Dreamforces a couple of years ago. I can't remember which one, but I know it's been great. And again, appreciate you guys asking me to join, extending the invitation. I mostly spend my time in kind of the B2C or B2B space, the channels there, and helping moderate that and trying to get more people to join and collaborate. And it's a growing community. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're not a part of it and you're in the B2B space, and you want a way to ask a question or bounce some feedback off others who have experience, it's a great place to do it. It's a lot easier than going to a form and posting it there. So get some interactivity. So yeah, it's a great space, and I love doing that type of work, and so I've been enjoying it.
Thank you for your help with that.
I'm curious, you do a lot of content creation. We're doing some right now. What advice do you have for people who maybe have not yet contributed an article, a video, an answer, and are looking to do so?
Yeah, I was very nervous the first time I created a YouTube video. I did it on Marketing Cloud time, and I knew I'd been thinking about it for like a year at that point, and I was worried. It was like, I'm going to sound like an idiot. Like, no one's going to view this as like something they're going to want to like actually listen to. And like, what if people say, there's a different way of doing it, or I was wrong, or whatever it is. At a certain point, I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter. Like, I'm going to put out my perspective on it. And if people don't want to watch it, they don't have to watch it. So that's, you have to make your own journey to that. But I care quite a bit about, best practices and doing it the right way. And so it took me a while to get to that point, but that was kind of my own journey to get to the point where I was ready to release something like YouTube. But my advice is just go do it. Like,
Just do
it's
it.
free. There's no harm in it. No one's going to yell at you on YouTube, more than likely. I haven't had that happen in 7 years of doing it. Just go and do it.
And even if you are wrong, you've just started a conversation that may ultimately be valuable to somebody else later.
100%.
And I guess the other thing that I've picked out of there is try not to be a perfectionist about it.
Yeah, that was the undertone of that. 100%.
If you're not wrong, like at least 10% of your video, what are the YouTube comments even going to talk about? Like, that's what YouTube comments are for, just correcting you. Like, let me mansplain this to you. You got to be wrong a little bit.
Got to give the trolls something to gnaw on, right? So, what do you have planned for the next couple months? We're heading into the holidays. Anything special coming up?
Just a little bit of time off with the family, visiting some of our family down in the Kansas City area. I've got my wife's family and some of my extended family down there, so we're going to do some traveling down there for Christmas. And aside of that, I've got a couple of videos planned that hopefully I'll get to when I have a free moment on my YouTube channel. It's been a up and down thing over the last couple of months as we've been really busy at work. But yeah, so a little bit of community stuff, a little bit of family stuff, and then before you know it, it's January.
I do find myself wondering when you have time for all of that.
I have a great wife who knows that I love this stuff. I've got 4 kids at home, so she is a saint for doing that while I go and record and try to keep them quiet while I do it too, which is always interesting when you're recording.
Yeah, I had to send a text to the family group chat like, hey, I'm going to be recording for the next hour. Try to keep it down.
Yeah, editing does great wonders though.
For sure. The tool we use has some really great audio cleanup that I don't have to even worry about. So I am grateful for AI in that regard.
For sure.
Well, we appreciate the time you're able to carve out for us today. I'm like to potentially give you an opportunity to say something to the community. Maybe tell us, I know you said you don't want to be reading a ton of stuff, and so that's where your like blog and your videos come from. But if you are reading anything, you feel free to share what's kind of tickling your fancy right now, and anything else you'd like to share.
Sure. That's like a blank check. I can write whatever I want.
You certainly can.
I think we've talked about a lot of the things. So if I were to talk to like the commerce crew who's listening to this, I think I've said this quite a bit in my past content too, but if you're not involved, get involved. Like, if you're in the commerce space and you're not already in, the Slack channel, or you're not in one of the community groups, go and do that. Like, you're going to benefit from it. Other people are going to benefit from it. So overall, I think just get involved. From what am I reading or doing? I spend probably 90% of my time reading Salesforce documentation, or trying to define the one thing in the rabbit hole of Salesforce's documentation. But when I do find free time, I've got one book which we read quite frequently here at work. It's called Traction. It's a methodology for starting a business as an entrepreneur. It has a framework called EOS, Entrepreneurship Operating System. Really, really good book. Highly recommend it to anyone who it's not even an entrepreneur. Like, it's about how to operate a business at scale and even in growing them. So I'd suggest reading that book. It's how we operate our business at Saltbox. And I've been in a couple organizations before who's done it as well. And then I read nonfiction, but I think for the most part, because I spend so much time during the day reading facts, I gotta read fiction, I should say, non-facts when I'm off. But yeah,
I
that's
appreciate
it.
that. Yeah. I often find that the time I have to read is when my brain is no longer capable of really like handling all of the complexity of the factual information.
Yeah,
You mentioned
exactly.
Salesforce documentation, which I feel like is the shifting times of sand of time, right? Like it's constantly morphing and folding in on itself and getting moved around as they change something for marketing reasons.
And you never know when it was last updated. There's no timestamp. So it could have been
Indeed.
today, it could have
Indeed.
been 10 years ago.
You mentioned EOS, which is interesting. There's another group within our ecosystem that I've heard that term from. The folks behind Pixel Media, now Rafter One, we're also big proponents of that. So that's at least another endorsement for that operating system and concept. So I think both Kyle and I are definitely peaked and might have to get ourselves a copy of Traction.
A good
I
read.
added it to my list of books to consider. I already did it just there. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Shane, for joining us today. We know you're very busy. Safe travels home. And for those listening at home, thank you for listening. And go out there and answer a question, post a video, write a blog post, and don't worry about what happens next.
Get involved. Thank you, Shane.
Good advice. Thank you both. See ya.